بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوفوا بالعقود وحلت لكم بهيمة الأنعام إلا ما يتلى عليكم غير محل الصيد وأنتم حرم إن الله يحكم ما يريد يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تحلوا شعائر الله ولا الشهر الحرام ولا الهدي ولا القلائد ولا آمين البيت الحرام يبتغون فضلا من ربهم ورضوانا وإذا حللتم فاصطادوا ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم أن صدوكم عن المسجد الحرام أن تعتدوا وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان فاتقوا الله إن الله شديد العقاب صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين Allah Jalla Jalaluhu Marwaluhu says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O believers, awfu bil-uqud, strictly observe the covenants, the promises, the treaties. وَحِلَّتْ لَكُمْ بَهِيمَةُ الْأَنْعَامِ, all like animals were made lawful for you, إِلَّا مَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْكُمْ, with the exception of those which would be told you hereinafter. غَيْرَ مُخِلِّ الصَّيْدِ, when you are not allowed to make the hunting lawful for you, the wild hunting, especially you have to attach the condition of wild, because the marine hunting is lawful in the coming chapter. غَيْرَ مُخِلِّ الصَّيْدِ, when you are not allowed to make the wild hunting lawful for you, وَأَنْتُمْ حُرُمْ, when you are in the gown of, in the robe of, in the garment of the pilgrims. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَحْكُمُ مَا يُرِيدُ, indeed Allah ordains whatever He pleases. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, O believers, لَا تُحِلُّوا شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ. أَحَلَّ يُحِلُّ إِحْلَالًا means to make lawful for oneself. But here it doesn't mean. It means to disrespect, to commit this sacrilege, to commit the irreverence. Don't disrespect Sha'air Allah, emblems, eminences, the symbols of Allah, the emblems of Allah, وَلَشَّارِ الْحَرَامِ, and don't disrespect the respectable months, inviolable months, respectable months. Walal hadiya, and not the animals dedicated for the offering. Walal qalaida, and not the colored offerings. Wala amin al bayt al haram, and don't molest and don't annoy, don't disturb the people repairing, means going frequently to the respectable home. يبتغون فضلا من ربهم ورضوانا, يبتغون, seeking, fadlan, bounty, min rabbihim, of their Lord, waridwana, and His prayer. Seeking the bounty and the prayer of their Lord. وَإِذَا حَلَلْتُمْ فَاسْتَعْلِمْ. وَإِذَا حَلَلْتُمْ, so when you put off the garb of pilgrimage, ihram, when you come out of ihram, when you put off the garb of, the robe of ihram, fastadu, you are allowed to hunt. You are allowed to hunt. This fastadu is imperative tense, but this is just for permissibility. It just permits, but it's not compulsory. It's not compulsion. So you are allowed to hunt after you have put off the garb of pilgrimage. Means ihram. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ. This is negative imperative tense, and it can be translated as let not. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ, and be on guard. Let not shana'anu qawmin, the resentment of the people, ansaddukum anil masjid al-haram, who prevented you, who barred you, who restrained you from the respectable mosque, inviolable mosque, incite you. Let not incite you. Let not the resentment, your resentment against those people who debarred you, who prevented you, who restrained you from the respectable mosque, incite you so much as to transgress, as to violate the limits, transgress the limits, violate or breach the promises. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, and cooperate in virtue, in goodness and piety. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, and don't cooperate in sin and violation. Sin and violation of law, disobedience, transgressions. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and fear God. إِنَّ اللَّهَ, verily Allah, indeed Allah, Shadeed, is very severe, al-iqab, in retribution, in chastisement, in penalty, in the punishment. O believers, don't disrespect the emblems of Allah, nor the respectable months, nor the animals dedicated for the offering, for the sacrifice at an altar. وَلَا الْقَلَائِدَ مِنْ إِمِّنَا. Hadiya, al-hadiy, is the word which is used for the offerings, for the sacrifices, which are supposed to be sacrificed in the sanctuaries, in the area of Haram Sharif, sanctuaries. وَلَا الْقَلَائِدَ, and not the collared animals, and don't molest, don't annoy, don't tease, don't torture, don't disturb the people frequently going to the respectable home, are repairing to the the respectable home, seeking the bounty and pleasure of Allah, their Lord, and you are allowed to hunt after you have put off the pilgrimage gone. And be on guard. This is just to emphasize this text. And let not the enmity or your resentment against those people who barred you from the respectable mosque so much as to transgress the limits and cooperate in virtue, piety, and don't cooperate in sin and transgression, and fear God. Indeed, Allah is very severe in punishment. This is the translation of the passage I recited before you. As I have already told you that this surah was revealed just after the treaty of Hudaybiyah Sharif, when our Holy Prophet intended to go visit Kaaba Sharif, but it was he was prevented by the non-Muslims in contravention even their customary law as well. It was not lawful according to the infidelity in the non-Islamic law. It was not lawful to prevent anybody coming towards Kaaba Sharif, but he was prevented. Therefore, the Muslims were highly annoyed, and they determined to retaliate, to take revenge on them sooner or later. Therefore, Allah says, O believers, observe strictly the treaties, the promises, the covenants, and any type of agreement, whether it is between you and your brothers, or between you and the infidels, or between you and God. All of the treaties and agreements should be strictly observed, because it is a matter of honesty, and honesty should not be violated at any cost. Since many treaties and covenants and promises and contracts were going to be discussed in the next chapter, therefore, in this introductory sentence, it is emphasized that the promises should be properly observed. It may be between man and man and God. All of the treaties have to be observed. أُحِلَّتْ لَكُمْ بَهِيمَةُ الْأَنْعَامِ. Here the treaty and agreement of lawful and unlawful were made between man and God through Muhammad Mustafa as a vicarious liability. Quran says, أُحِلَّتْ لَكُمْ بَهِيمَةُ الْأَنْعَامِ. So it is my promise with you that I shall forgive you, provided that you obey my order. And the Muslims said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a promiser. Since in this connection Allah is promising and the believers are promisers, and the method of salvation is a contract, and what is consideration is the obedience. Against the obedience, the paradise will be granted. So, government and man are the parties to contract. So, contract cannot be breached by God. Breach of contract is possible on behalf of the human being. Therefore, human beings are emphasized by means of this word, Awfu bil uqud. O believers, strictly observe the covenants, the promises, the contracts. أُحِلَّتْ لَكُمْ بَهِيمَةُ الْأَنْعَامِ. All the cattle-like animals were made lawful for you. There are two words, bahima and an'am. Bahima is mostly used for camel, cow, sheep and goat. But when it was combined with al-an'am, it means that all of the four-footed animals are lawful for you, or four-footed grazing animals are lawful for you, with the exception of those which would be told you in the coming chapter. Means all the four-footed grazing animals are lawful for you, with the exception of those which we told you in the coming chapter. Quran says, غَيْرَ مُحِلِّ الصَّيْدِ. Here, Quran indicates to a new species of unlawful animals. In sometimes the lawful animal also stands unlawful because of certain circumstances. For instance, the hunting is lawful. The animals of games, the birds of games are lawful. But when a person is wearing the garb of ihram, garb of pilgrim, that would stand unlawful. The same thing which is lawful would stand unlawful. Means when a person is wearing the garb of a pilgrim, he cannot hunt. He cannot sport and hunt. He cannot indicate any bird of game or animal of game for hunting, because it is also criminal offense. Because this is a sin, this is a crime according to Islamic law. Therefore, if he tries to sport somebody else, it would be considered to be criminal abatement. It is unlawful abatement, unlawful sport. Therefore, he would be penalized for this action. You are not allowed to hunt when you are in the garb of, in the law of, in the dress of pilgrims. You are the same person and your clothes are the same. But why? When they are attributed towards pilgrimage, the situation is changed. When certain clothes are attributed, ascribed to pilgrimage, it becomes dignified, it becomes sacred, it becomes reverent, respectable. So when a thing is attributed to Muhammad Mustafa, so what should one think about this one? For instance, a cloth is attributed towards a person in connection with the pilgrimage. This situation is changed, and the same person is believed to be a sacred person, to be a respectable person. He should not be disrespected. He should be regarded for. He should be respected because he was attributed, he was ascribed towards Kaaba Sharif. But Muhammad Mustafa is Kaaba of Kaaba. Kaaba was made Kaaba because of Muhammad Mustafa. But Muhammad Mustafa himself was not made Muhammad because of Kaaba. The cause of Kaaba is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but Kaaba is not cause of Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, cause is Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Kaaba is action. Hazur is cause, Kaaba is action. So when a thing is attributed, ascribed towards Kaaba Sharif, becomes respectable. So when a companion of the Holy Prophet is ascribed to Muhammad Mustafa, so should he be disrespected? No, not at all. So when a person should not be disrespected when he is attributed, ascribed towards Qibla Sharif, and any garb or any garment, any dress, any clothes ascribed towards pilgrimage or towards Kaaba Sharif are believed to be respectable. So when a person is attributed, ascribed to Muhammad Mustafa, just like Siddiq Akbar, Farooq Azam, Usman Ghani, Haider Karar, and other companions of Muhammad Mustafa, because they were attributed to the Kaaba of Kaaba, therefore they should be respected by 2 times, because they are more respectable persons. They were attributed. In the same way, when Ali Muhammad were attributed to Muhammad Mustafa, they should all stand to be respectable, sacred, and they should not be respected. Anything attributed towards the sacred thing stands a respectable and reverend and highly sacred. Quran says you are not allowed to hunt. Hunting was quite lawful, but on account of respect of pilgrim garb, pilgrim garments, pilgrim dress, pilgrim clothes, the hunting was banned, because this is violation of respect of the gods of pilgrimage. They were just clothes, but not more than clothes. But when they were attributed to the pilgrimage, they assumed the form of sacredness. Quran says, "Inna Allah yahkum ma yurid." Indeed, Allah ordains whatever He pleases. Means sometimes the philosophical mind persons think the philosophy of every order. Quran says, you have nothing to do with the philosophy of order, because you are my servant. It is against servitude. It is against subjection. You are my subject. Your duty is to submit yourself to my orders. Your duty is to obey my orders. Obedience is your legal status. You have got nothing to do with the philosophy of the order. Inna Allah yahkum ma yurid. Whatever He likes, He ordains. Means no restrictions, no ban, and no limitation can be imposed on the power of Allah. You may or may not understand the philosophy of an order, but you will have to go down before the order of Allah. Understand? Sometimes some person put a question, asks a question about the philosophy of the order, but this is a final and decisive decision of Allah, that it is not human right to ask for the philosophy. If philosophy or anything is disclosed to you, it is good and better for you. But you can't impose the condition of philosophy. Sometimes the philosophy of an order is comprehensible by you, but sometimes it is out of your approach. You can't understand it. And the men are of different qualities, different intelligences. Some of them are very genius. Some of them are middle intelligence, and some of them are dull, but all of them are human beings. And they should be dealt with alike. And they are servants of Allah alike. Therefore, order of Allah is equally served to all of them. So, if it had been a condition of philosophy, then there would not have been any chance for the dull people. Therefore, this door was closed, that nobody is allowed to impose the condition of philosophy if any type of philosophy of an order or any background of an order is close to you, is good for you, but you cannot impose the condition of philosophy. Sometimes philosophy of an order is quite possible for you to understand, but sometimes it is above and beyond the approach of human beings. But even then, the order is made. So in such cases, it is not possible for a person to practice without the understanding of philosophy. Therefore, the condition of philosophy was removed. Inna Allah yahkum ma yurid. Indeed, Allah ordains whatever He likes. It is up to Him. If you believe that He is very sympathetic to you, compassionate and kind to you, you must rely upon Him. Whatever order was made to you would be better and beneficial for you. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tu'jidu sha'air Allah. O believers, don't disrespect the emblems of Allah. Sha'air is plural number of sha'ira or sha'r. Most of the Muslim commentators are of the view that it is plural number of sha'ira, and some of them of the view that it is plural number of sha'r. But in both of the cases means symbol, sign, which differentiates someone from the other ones. It may be symbol of a community, a party, it may be a symbol of political party, religious party, spiritual party, moral party, academic party, whichever party may be, it can be symbol and sign and identification of that party. Just like the church, the altar, the cross, the crucifix is the shi'ar of Christianity. Symbol of these can be termed as eminences or emblems. E-M-B-L-E-M-S. Emblems. Emblems are eminences. E-M-I-N-A-N-C-E. Eminences. Eminences are emblems are proper word for this one. This is religious language. It cannot be found in common books. These are the emblems of Christianity. Just like the sickle and hammer is the emblem of the Communist Party. Just like the mask, the beard is the emblem of Muslims. But can a new thing be introduced as an emblem? Yes, it is quite possible. How? When the war between Muslims and apostate Muslim Kazzab, who professed that he was a prophet in the life of Muhammad Mustafa, but he was declared to be non-Muslim. The last day somebody was telling me that some Maulana said that there was no example of murdering or killing of any apostate, murtad. So it is totally wrong, because when Muslim Kazzab proclaimed that, announced that he was a prophet, he was verdicted as an apostate, murtad. Apostate means murtad. He was verdicted as an apostate. So during the life of Muhammad Mustafa, the arrangements for the battle against him were observed. So it is a prediction which can be referred to for the killing of an apostate. Apostate should be sentenced death, should be hanged, should be killed. And as an Islamic regulation, it is found in all of the Islamic canonical law. For instance, Ayah Sharif is last and final kitab of copyright law, and Rafi'i is a book of Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh, which is fundamental one, and many commentaries were written on this one. And all of these books are full of this prediction. And this prediction was discussed in full details in different books. And when the army was prepared, in those days, army would be mobilized just for the emergency. All of the Muslims were army of Islam, but there was no barracks, there was no ration, no salary, no the army facilities. Regimental facilities was not provided by the Muslims. All of the Muslims would live in their own houses. They lived on their own expenses, and all of the facilities would be provided by themselves, and they were always ready to fight against the non-Muslims at the time of necessity, when the army was mobilized for this very purpose. And at that time, they wanted to symbolize themselves with a symbol, with an emblem. So an emblem was granted to them. What was that? Kana shi'aruhum yawma izin ya Muhammada. This was their symbol. This was their shi'ar. This was their emblem, their eminence. Means when the army would go to Yamama, where Riyadh is situated nowadays. This is the place where first war after the death of Muhammad Mustafa was fought against an apostate. He was an apostate. Musaylimatul Kazzab, on being profession of new prophethood, he was declared, he was verdicted as an apostate, and fight was agreed by the Muslims against him. And according to a unanimous decision, the Muslims were prepared to go there and fight against him. Since in those days there was no permanent uniform garment, there was no arrangement of their uniform, it was quite possible for them to mix up with the non-Muslims without any identification. Therefore, it was quite possible to harm themselves by themselves. Therefore, a symbol was very compulsory. It means that whenever any type of confusion arises among the Muslims, and the pure Muslims cannot be identified without a symbol, any new symbol can be allotted. Understand? It's quite possible. This symbol, this sign, and this emblem, this eminence was not granted, was not allotted, was not enacted by Muhammad Mustafa was by himself, but it was let down by Siddiq Akbar with the agreement of his member of his legal community, his legal committee members. And Ya Muhammadah was fixed, means when you are expected to mix up with the non-Muslims and identification is required, you must symbolize yourself with Ya Muhammadah. It means that the first people who fought against the apostate were believing in Ya. Ya Muhammadah. The first war against the apostates was fought with the name of, with the title of, with the symbol of Ya Muhammadah. If a person doesn't believe in Ya Muhammadah, what he has got in relation to Muhammad Mustafa? The first person in respect of status, in respect of knowledge, in respect of ideology, in respect of sacredness was Siddiq Akbar radiallahu anhu. And this meeting was chaired by Siddiq Akbar radiallahu anhu. And this decision was achieved by the approval of total number of the majority, total number of assembly, all of the house agreed to it. It means that neither of the companions of the Holy Prophet was differing with the issue of Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammadan. So confliction of Ya Muhammadan was waged afterwards. So this confliction was not found in the age of Muhammad Mustafa or in the era of his companions. So it was a shi'ar, it was an emblem. Means this emblem should be respected for all the times. When it was enacted for the time being, but it became the emblem of Islam forever, and it should be respected up to the judgment day. Just like in the Safa wal Marwa min sha'airillah. Safa and Marwa are eminences, emblems and symbols of Allah, but they got the status at the time of walking of Sayyidah Hajra. They assumed the position of Sha'airullah just by walking of Sayyidah Hajra, but they became the emblems of Allah forever or not forever. It means that whenever a new symbol is included in the embodiment of Islamic law, that would continue to remain in the list of emblems of Allah, and it should be respected according to Islamic law. One cannot say that Sayyidah Hajra had passed thousands of years before Muhammad Mustafa, and Safa and Marwa were decided as emblems of Allah before the advent of Muhammad Mustafa, advent basin, before the advent of Muhammad Mustafa. Therefore, it should not be respected, so it cannot be approved. Safa and Marwa would continue be respected up to the judgment day, because they were dictated, they were decided as symbol and emblems of Allah by virtue of Sayyidah Hajra. So they would continue to be in the same status forever. In the same way, when Ya Muhammadan was included in the Islamic emblems, it would be respected forever. So in these days, if a person says Ya Muhammadan or Ya Rasulullah, so nobody has got right to prevent him, to depart him, to restrain him, to forbid him, because it is an emblem which was introduced by the total number of the present member of Kabina Muhammad Mustafa, the cabinet of Muhammad Mustafa approved it. Therefore, it would be included in the emblems of Islam. So, Safa and Marwa were not introduced by Islam, but they were introduced by the previous communities. But since they were attributed to God and to the godly persons and to the divine persons, therefore they should be respected. In the same way, for the coming times, all the things, mosque, the Islamic institutes and Islamic universities, which are working for pure Islam, and all of the persons working for pure ideology, and they are serving the science, Islamic sciences, and they are working for Islamic normative sciences, they are also emblems of Allah. Because anything concerning with Allah would be included in the list of emblems of Allah, and they should be respected. All of the Muslim scholars are also shy. Therefore, all of the Muslim scholars should be respected. Quran says, La tahillu sha'ir Allah, O Muslim, O Muslims, you are not allowed to disrespect the emblems of Allah. وَمَنْ يُعَزِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Whoever pays respect to the emblems of Allah, so really he is indicating to the piety which is found in his heart. So this is the piety of hearts. وَالشَّهْرُ الْحَرَامُ. There were 4 months before Islam as well that they used to be respected. Ziqada, Zilhajjah, Muharram and Rajab. Means according to the customary law of pre-Islam, nobody was allowed to fight against each other on account of those months. Those months were termed as respectable months. Ashhurul Hurum means the months with great and high respect. Means even if it is a customary law, but it is approved according to Islamic jurisprudential books. Jurisprudential books say that any customary law which was approved by the religious communities, if it is not repugnant to the Islamic law, it would be approved by Islam, as this one. Means these 4 months, Ziqada, Zilhajjah, Muharram and Rajab, these 4 months were approved by the customary law as respectable months. But this decision was not repugnant, not opposite to the Islamic spirit. Therefore, it was approved that they would continue to remain in the same position. Well, and those animals should also be respected, which are sent to be sacrificed in the area of sanctuaries. The area around Baitullah Sharif, which was demarcated by Muhammad Mustafa as a respectable place, would be termed as Haram Sharif, Hudud Haram, and then would be termed as sanctuary. Every animal which is sent to be sacrificed in the area of sanctuary would be termed as Hadi, Qurbani. There are 2 types of Qurbanis, Hadi and Dahiyya. The offerings which are supposed to be sacrificed in other areas than that of sanctuary would be termed as Dahiyya. But Hadi is an animal which is an offering. It is also Qurbani, but it is supposed to be sacrificed in the area of sanctuary. So, since there are now 2 types of words in Urdu. Urdu is limited language. Therefore, there is no differentiation between these 2 types of Qurbanis. Both of them are termed in Urdu as Qurbani. But in Arabic, the Qurbani which is going to be sacrificed in the area of Haram Sharif, that is termed as Hadi. And the Qurbani which is going to be sacrificed in area other than the sanctuary would be termed as Dahiyya. So here, all of the animals which are supposed to be sacrificed in the area of sanctuaries would be termed as Hadi, and they are respectable. So look, you have nourished, you have brought up an animal by yourself, or you have purchased from the market, but that is owned by you. You are master of that animal. But when you attribute it to the purpose of sacrifice, the purpose of offering, it becomes sacred, it becomes respectable. So when you are not allowed to disrespect the animal which is attributed to a sacred place, so what is your idea about a person who is attributed to Muhammad Mustafa himself? Just like Ali Rasul, the Muslim scholars, the places attributed to Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu, all of them are respectable and should be respected. And that animal may be cow, may be goat, may be sheep, may be camel. And they never perform the ablution. They are always dirty. They are always dirty, without ablution. And they are animals. And they are, in all the cases, inferior to human being. But yet, human being is dutiful to pay respect to them. Because they are attributed, they are ascribed, they are fathered to the sacred places. When a common thing like animal is attributed to a sacred place, becomes sacred. So, why a person or a thing or an object attributed to Muhammad Mustafa should not be respected? There is no reason. Well, al-qalai. Sometimes the pilgrims used to call their animals of offering just to simplify for identification that they were supposed to be sacrificed in the area of sanctuary. So those animals are termed as collared. So the collared animal should also be respected. This is also offering. This is also qurbani. Hadiya and kalai are two types of qurbanis, offerings. And they should be respected because they are attributed to a sacred place. And the people frequently going are repairing to Baitul Haram, respectable, inviolable home should not be molested, should not be annoyed. Why? In those days, the Muslims were annoyed with the non-Muslims because they had been prevented. They had been forbidden by the non-Muslims at the time of Hudaybiyah Sharif. But in the coming year, it was quite possible for the Muslims to prevent the non-Muslims who were going to Kaaba Sharif, passing through the boundaries of Islamic State. Because in those days, the infidels of adjoining countries were also going to Baitullah Sharif to perform the pilgrimage. Therefore, it was quite possible for the Muslims to prevent them and to debar them from the visiting. Allah says, وَلَا آمِنَ الْبَيْتُ الْحَرَامِ, and you are not allowed to molest, to annoy, or to enrage the non-Muslims. They may be non-Muslims, but you have got no right to annoy them because they are going to a sacred place. In those days, the prohibition about the non-Muslims were not imposed, but afterwards, this order was cancelled. No non-Muslims were allowed to visit Kaaba Sharif, but this prohibition was made afterwards. But previously, the Muslims were ordered not to enrage, not to molest, not to prevent the people repairing, means frequently going to Kaaba Sharif, because that was a sacred place and every human being had got a right to go there. And the non-Muslims should not be retaliated for their bad action. Who are going to the respectable home just for sake of bounty and blessing and prayer of their Lord. So, in the previous lines, the hunting was banned, hunting was forbidden in case of ihram. Here, Quran says, when you put off the pilgrim garb, you are allowed to hunt. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ أَنْ صُدُّوكُمْ عَنِ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ أَنْ تَعْتَدُوا. Since a person the previous year came to Muhammad Mustafa to visit him and had a long meeting with Muhammad Mustafa and asked for many things about Islam. Our Holy Prophet replied him very properly and comprehensively. But before his arrival, our Holy Prophet told his companion that somebody was coming. He would come with the face of an infidel and would go back with the back of a betrayer. Means he would flatter. He would try to be very submissive, very cooperative, very polite, but really he would not be polite, not very sincere, but he would cooperate and he would try to flatter and to deceive me, but he would not be able to deceive me, but he would be deceiving himself. So when he came and had a meeting, as our Holy Prophet told the companions, he did the same. But while going back, he drove the cattle of the Muslims. And the Muslims told Muhammad Mustafa that such and such person who had come to visit him had driven many cattle with him. Our Holy Prophet smiled at them and told them that he was trying to make them understand the same. But in the coming year, he was going to visit Kaaba Sharif, driving the same cattle who had stolen from Medina Tayyibah, and it was quite possible for the Muslims to prevent him and to interfere him during the way. But in spite of the fact that the Muslims identified their cattle, the person, the thief, and all pros and cons, but yet our Holy Prophet ordered according to the order of Allah, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ أَنْ صَدُّوكُمْ عَنِ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ أَنْ تَعْتَدُوا. Let not your resentment against those people who had barred you from visiting of Kaaba Sharif so much as to transgress the limits. Means you should not be annoyed so much as to violate the limits, because you have promised not to violate the law and not to transgress. Therefore, according to the introductory sentence, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu awfu bil uqud, O believers, strictly observe the promises and the covenants and the treaties you made with other ones. وَتَعَامَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, and you should cooperate with anyone, anywhere, in connection with the virtue. Means you are duty bound to cooperate, irrespective of Muslim or non-Muslim, relative or irrelative, contemporary or uncontemporary, compatriot or uncompatriot. In all of the cases, you are duty bound to cooperate, but in connection with virtue and piety, wherever it is found. Just like the Muslims used to look after Kaaba Sharif along with the infidels. When the infidels were not deserving to be cooperated, but it was a double cooperation because it was in connection with virtue, in connection with piety. For instance, you are going on the road and there is a non-Muslim lying on the road and he is trying to take a person who was badly injured. So what should you do? Your duty is to support him because it is virtue. To sympathize with human being is a virtue. To rescue the life of a person is a virtue. is a point. You should cooperate with the non-Muslims as well. But وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, and don't cooperate in the sin and transgression. When a person is your brother and he is killing the people, he is committing the thefts, he is committing the robbery, the burglaries, and as being your brother, he asks for help, you are not allowed to help, because Quran says, وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. It is not your right to cooperate with the person who violates the law. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. Allah says, when all of the creatures are subject to Him and they can do nothing without supervision, so there is no chance for you to fear them, but it is appropriate for you to fear me. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and fear Allah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. This is to emphasize the intensity of these orders enunciated in the previous lines. Quran says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Verily Allah is very severe in the punishment and the retribution. Means if you violate the law or treaties, or covenants or promises you made between you and others, so Allah will penalize you very severely. So this is the end of my lecture. Initially, thank you today. If anybody wants to question, would be encouraged and appreciated. But the next chapter will be very complicated and very beneficial. If anybody tries to comprehend it and understand it properly, he would be rewarded by God as well, and he will see the fruit of his study in this world as well. The coming chapter is very, very nice.